Gilg Jew, Gilg J as Gilg Nerach.
Ten treir jitnish the chortaich derchlash o Claare Gael. My name is Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert a Carslach.
Have you ever had tell of old Bobby Bob?
And I'm here to present this programme Claare Gael in two languages, in the English language as Sahilg, and in the Manx Gaelic, Sahilg Chinyanamera, the mother tongue of Ellen Vanning, the Isle of Man. As Bannacht de Trish. William Gell has lamented the demise of Thomas Gibson's shipbuilding enterprise in Ramsey, and he feels that the tourist industry served by the Moorach Park isn't really a substitute. But then he celebrates a new industry in the form of salt. To Skeelen ons Chaglim na Breirich and Grimm Dominic chit der and der feich shira achten de chorn drach peich en Jachelia. As the Skeel show mechion the 3 Dania beggars a Gael, she lias for to genu drachello rish a lias ninek. The first song here is written by Katie Moss in 1911, after she'd visited Helston in Cornwall for Flora Day, which was on the 8th of May. She was a singer and played piano and violin. Here the voice is that of Cornish singer Benjamin Luxon. He was born in Redruth. Tashu geistach rish Radio Vanning station and ashun viskull skelia mach by Dúlish, Ellen Vannin.
As I walked home on a summer night when stars in heaven were shining bright, far away from the footlights' glare, into that sweet and scented air of a quaint old Cornish town. On from afar in a gentle breeze, joining the murmur of summer seas, distant tones of an old world dance, played by the village band perchance, on the calm it came floating down. I thought I could hear the curious tone of the cornet, clarinet, and big trombone, fiddle, cello, big bass drum, bassoon, flute, and euphonium, far away as in a trance. I heard the sound of the floral dance, and soon I heard such a bustling and prancing, and then I saw the whole village was dancing. In and out of the houses they came, old folk, young folk, all the same, in that quaint old Cornish town. Every boy took a girl round the waist and hurried her off with tremendous haste. Whether they knew one another I care not, whether they cared at all I know not. But they kissed as they danced along. And there was the band with the curious tone of the cornet, clarinet, and big trombone, fiddle, cello, big bass drum, bassoon, flute, and euphonium, each one making the most of his chance, all together in the formal dance. Standing there, and I could only stand and stare, for I had no maid with me. Lonely I should have to be in that quaint old Cornish town. When suddenly, hastening down the lane, a figure I knew I saw quite plain. With outstretched arms I rushed along, and carried her into that merry throng, while a fiddle and all came dancing the cutest tone of the cornet, clarinet and big trombone, fiddle, cello, big bass drum, bassoon, flute and euphonium, each one making the most of his chance, all together in the floral dance. Dancing here, prancing there, jigging, jogging everywhere, up and down and round the town. Hurrah for the Cornish floral dance!
Katie Moss's 1911 composition, with her words set to an elaboration of the traditional tune played by Helston Town Band for Flora Day. The Helston Town Band, which doesn't feature fiddle, cello, and I don't think it features clarinets either, so rather a creation of Katie Moss's imagination there. On piano, we heard David Willison, who was the accompanist for over 30 years of Cornish baritone Benjamin Luxon, and in fact they were recorded there in St Austell. William Gell celebrates the arrival of an industry in the north of the island to produce salt in his 1906 poem Mannin Veg Veen, a poetical sketch of the Isle of Man. After industrial decline, with the great days of Thomas Gibson's Ramsey shipyard behind it, Gell observes that, with Mannin's industries at fault, Earth executes a demi-volt and starts the course afresh with salt. May this newcomer thrive amain, and rouse these who have dormant lain, like phoenix, into life again. A mining and civil engineer from Glasgow, John Todd, had made test borings at the Point of Ayre in 1892, looking for a possible coal seam, but had found instead an underground reservoir of brine. He carried out analysis and found it was of a purity that could be used, and he sought the necessary permissions to lay pipelines so that the brine could be brought from beneath the Point of Ayre into a salt works developed in Ramsey, and the site he identified for that was the shipyard. Tan liasvoer a chor lias nínek, chor mwy gŵn as peber, as de chol max a Gael ons een gŵn sio geed de belly ons meen a jaura, de redden soen talúan a sond hi grei. Tan nín grei na bel soen talúan a redden sa jaura, de bel een talú riodich, as de bel a sneachte, kudige de chulju nie. Te grei de wel e gevoer tjou moei, de wel ennal chit de beriodich, as de gin a rie shege through de groen as pebe, as de gin Jill grepe e by een dreamek. Tan lias woer corrie ries on Lord Nyack, as de corori goals, na welly de hit back in basket de hoen te loen. Hugel lias woer de nien, meer beg de arren kraai as doortie, bi shendeloer dutte I faien lei. As er nie smunnion ri heen, san shigeris, biish, riogich, na erna ljedige best chang mui, as a ginnum fagani rish arach. Ma saw hai a nien de bailach, huggy mui, a goon as peber, as hai rumbi lesh a vascage. Irish singer and harp player Brona McVitie leads a quintet here called Rune, in a song about the red-haired girl and Callion Rua.
Shachadun Yeshimaka Grenya Kalingi Danaklange Vishkim Dana Finye Mochalin Rua Hadamensha Kosever is Pime and Nari Hogin Shamor and Krokeri Huas Vienna Gasora Vehindo Mostorin is Pinye Gala House in Limochalin Rua.
The harp of Brona McGetty from County Down, and she was one of the 5 voices of the group Rún that we heard, and the song An Calin Drua, the red-haired girl. Van sneacht yn a lai de chuljuwol, foders leen, as grauw fochen de fure hagen. Tre haist jaag se geel, honniki tai beg, les 3 denje begge kiekel maag aas. Huggy le maioru. As rennie kronkel de feishach een dorus. Hugge demory de golstjach on. As henkiestjach se chamber, as hai shees eg chowen och de chowie heen, as de en angielek. Doort na denje begge, Cordon pertje shen. Lesh arltus dreggery, as frishie meer begek de aren ons de fish, as huggy douwen lie arenje. Esh doortad. Kere tau jinne ons shaw se geel ons rai shaw en jaure, se groen beg tanne het. O, dreggerish, te arm gedden basket de hoen te loen, as genaiden dau gulde valien en wagoosh. Trevie nie en arran nek, hugged G scabe, as dintje G de gul as de scaber sule sneacht of wij dorus na coolje. Now, since the glory days of the iron-hulled vessels being launched in the 1860s, including famously the Euterpe, which went on to be renamed the Star of India and is now the core of the San Diego Maritime Museum in California and is the oldest sailing vessel in regular use, by the 1870s onwards the shipyard had fallen virtually into disuse. So John Todd set up the Manx Salt and Alkali Company Limited in 1902. There we are, just 4 years before William Gell's poem. The works in the shipyard site went into production in 1903 with 7 salt pans, and there was a smack called the Genie, which was employed full-time in bringing the coal for the fires, used to evaporate the liquid to leave the salt behind, and for then exporting the salt, with the shipyard quay forming an ideal base for the Genie's services. By 1911, the works were thriving, and its 2 tall chimneys were a notable feature of the Ramsey townscape. Then over the years, extra vessels were needed to deal with all the requirements for import and export in and out of the salt works. player of the Welsh triple harp whose home is in Machynlleth. That's Cerys Habana, who says of herself that she mangles, mutates and transforms traditional music, as well as writing her own tunes. Stasiwn yn asiwnt Radio Fanning, as on sio se Claare na Gael fy sgol sgeliamach, mer yn pyn Robert Cytyn Corswell, Robert y Corslach.
Did the other hear tell of old Bobby Bob?
Rys siacht yn lwg da Claare na Gael sgol sgeliamach yn chydchir siot ar y cortes tir y chlasyn neg yn y deg Radio Fanning, ioris brw y craman eis rys, as rai en ym y Claare yn sien. De Claare na Gael rach nasty mor podcastnies, trwyd inedeg Radio Fanning, na trwyd yn rai chier de podcast ed, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Audible, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, na Alexa. William Gell's wish that the salt industry would thrive was fulfilled in the early part of the 20th century, but there came a decline in the 1940s, and the end had come by 1956 when the Harbour Board bought the site and cleared away the equipment. And in March 1957 the two chimneys were demolished. Something that would have pleased William Gell, though, even with the demise of the salt works, was that shipbuilding again started in Ramsey. The underground reservoir of brine that was being tapped for the Ramsey salt works was near the Point of Ayr, and from there. Now, southward o'er the hills again, that's the Bride Hills that he noted on the way up, pass we by Andrew's sacred fane, whose bell tower sweeps the northern plain of fertile lands from coast to coast. Archdeacons here, a goodly host, have ministered the strong outpost of Mannin's church. From the 1500s, the Archdeacon of Man had been rector of Kirkandras, but that historic link is now broken, of course. Treviing on maagde in uw shen de glees skebe en sniaagde, van een Daniebegge lord na maast oxen, mechaun lullies a gejinnewer son. No de rawi gemaai is geboeg, de rawi a rein an aranak ekaru. As de rawi een rein an aranak ekaru. Esch dort en gieder, higgy de wijn spoei dag lei. Dort en afer, dag hier til lord, ni meer de air tusjem maag as a biel. Door de traastjouw, ni rie chit as goilie son a wen chesje egge. Eder een dag rijf en nien jenu shen van a denie begge en inchgie, as vi a glenne sniachte vai chau chulu jen tai beg, as kreit hau shielten huri en shen. Soen til doen brau avi, voor agen jurk dorge onze sniachte. Esch les jaunus renny lina vasgedekte len, huggy buist en a denie begge, renny kre laurus nulju, as renny rai de valia, as drissori de cholesten jas voirek, a nie vigiri huish. A Scottish band, Malinky, are led by the voice of Fiona Hunter in a song about Tarvis Parish. Some way there's a long road that I mangy to the 5 lands in the morning. A camel and I did the ride, a paid of horses for the drive. I'll come on the eyes at 5 and call the fun in the morning. Uto his bed he sprang to his feet, cries lush boys rise for it's morning. To gather fan he set me to, which I began canally. Took a look for the weddy and the 5 lands in the morning. Tarvis is a small village in Aberdeenshire, and there it was described, or at least some of the goings-on one Sunday morning were described in music by the group Malinky, with the lead vocal by Fiona Hunter singing of Tarvis Parish. Gauds ha istiach on as we grey, fast am I, hutch meer de air as a beel chilirach. Esh, renni corcunta jay ulju ver hager G sa Gael. As ek dag vogel lorry, hutch meer an air mag as a beel, de rauwe de leer skeelt mag ulju magita chamber. Gigacher a vorn as a chor wie an ek dilly a lias huwer, as is cow ergit magits an ach shaw. Ach sa chriek, wie dolach kunta jay, as vi giri golstjach nies sa Gael de chor les soen taloen. Ach door te voir, ha nee Mannin Veg Veen, te ra voers bi urjogit gebes. Ach a dagi on sheer bi, as verjere renne voir lai rosh, huri koet funny stome, de chor mooi, as huggigi aran azim as berinende a red. Hij en een stjach se Gael, as huli de girach as tai beg. Ren de tri denia begge kikkel mach rish, a geduggy banach bi aru. At the time that William Gell was writing his poem, the bell tower of Kirkandras was standing at its full height. The foundation stone for the tower, to the side of the church rather than being a component of the part of the church, had been laid on the 30th of May 1867 by Mrs. Francis Hall, the widow of the Venerable Cecil Hall, who'd been archdeacon from 1839 to 1844. When the tower was completed in March 1869, it stood at almost 37 metres, about 120 foot, so it was a very striking feature of the northern plain, as William Gell mentions. In 1941, with the proximity of Andros and Derby airfields, the Air Ministry got permission first to take down the flagpole from the top of the tower, and then the tower itself was taken down to a lower level. The top was replaced again, but it brought its height down because the middle section had been removed. It brought it down to about 60 foot, about 17 metres. The stones from that middle section were stored and numbered with the intention of rebuilding the tower some time later, but it never materialised, and later on the stones themselves disappeared somewhere. About halfway along Brittany's northern coast is the city of Saint-Brieuc, named after a Welsh monk who brought Christianity to the area. And it's from Saint-Brieuc where the singer Breg Guerveno is from, and here he has a secret to tell. Ach secret.
Zelus astere und dieser Pelde treda ziueske a vleise sache
The Secret, Our Sacred, a song in Breton written and sung by Brig Greveno. I don't know whether he takes his name, Brig, from Saint-Brig, the name of the city there on Brittany's northern coast where he's from. Perhaps he does. And the basis of the church that we see at Kirkandras now, the Kirkandras as we know it, was built in 1802 with stone from Sulby Glen. But between 1867 and 1869, as well as building that separate bell tower up to its full 120-foot height, the height of the church walls was also raised, and that can still be seen in the stonework there. And now from Kirkandras, again we saw, encountering by the western shore the cawing rooks of Ballamore. Here Jerby stands, a beacon tower on heights succumbing to the scour of grim old ocean's mighty power. In writing about Kirkmackle, William Gell showed that he's a fan of Hall Caine's novels. I wonder if he's mentioning Ballamore here because Hall Caine made that the home of Victor Stoll in The Master of Man. Victor Stoll was the son of a Deemster, and he went on to become a Deemster himself. I won't give the story away in case you want to read it. It's quite lively, full of incident. It was written in 1921, a late Manx novel by Hall Caine. In fact, by that time his wife Mary Alice felt he shouldn't still be writing about the island. I'm not quite sure why she felt that, but anyway, she felt he shouldn't be writing about that, and she felt he ought to be setting another one in the eternal city of Rome again. That was her feeling anyway, but he'd made 1921 the year of The Master of Man. Gin Jean McGeet na Gael be daw, Henky trogerach sa chamber. Huggy heen na sail yorish an ach, a schawi toyach der an arran as as na barina neck. Cordon perche shen, Gillian na Dania beggar, ach dregery, genel de lure on behan heen, kreinach vadam cor shul veg jay. Nish trebi jint leshan ek doortad. Shaw scabe, immi mach a scable you de glen ag doris na coolia. Oh, immi shoe as gin shoe ern and son heen dregery, genel mish de chalian tie. Ach tre honnekin rawad son cor veggie, hai mach as an doris. Erno, hai mach as an doris. Esh, doort na 3 Dania beggen na maast oxen. Kirret wishmet de jenu ree, no de wel ich on jou ginnel. As de krieg holk is ei dolach ek, as moerige de gulje niede de gulje veeg. Doort een gid higgy de veine skrene dag lei. The band Finardry and Carafusi. The wedding reel was popularised by Manx national songs, and W.H. Gell wrote a set of words for it. The Manx wedding. There are other songs called Carafusi and Manx as well, but Gell placed that particular one amongst the dance tunes in his Manx national music, which was published a couple of years later. Sianne de vier stasiwn yn asiwn radio banim. Se Claare na Gael ar y chlas yn carnish, mish Robert gyda'n cars o Robert y carslach.
Have you heard tell of owl Bobby Bob?
Dwrt y naer, dach i'r ti lord, ne beef lim ymach as y bil ag dach fogel. Dwrt yn tras jaw, ne ish gedd yn best trai. Van nin gin chawmui son suan toluen, ach on a duri beg, hai de valia de poochach. As chalias doshelia beel de instant voirek na henkori se geel, ren beef limma maag as a beel ek daag vogel, de rauw vier ek de gulliefeg henk vagesgie. Henk al jas woir de ween na smooth courage nai in nina dunja, as een elid ek bischige lei. As van ons muljanek, an haag de jinnu skelje henjachgie. Maar sofa jera gawi curre, huggie een aisle, as rennie skolde put de snai on. Treve urlu, renne kroche herish gielen en yin wach, as huggie gi tai, as veori golgus en jou in riojit, as de vrisje tols er rio, as onshen vi de strulle a snai. Huggie bailus, as high as rennie giara tols er rio. At the foot of the mountains on the northern plain, writes Gael, a district here called Mallow Loch was once, they say, Lake Myasco, now oft with rain a miry slough. Well, I don't know how this is for a rhyme, or how the words together chime, but please to make it do this time. Well, he's having a bit of fun here, perhaps even poking fun at himself and his own efforts in producing the rhymes he uses. In J.J. Neen's 1925 The Place Names of the Isle of Man, he mentions Loch Mollo. Apparently, he says, from Irish Mach Loch, Lake of the Plain, and Loch added later when the original meaning had been forgotten. The construction of this name and Dubh Loch show that they belong to the pre-Norse period, the specific word being placed first and the generic last, as in modern Irish these would be. Loch Du and Loch an Vai. The lake has now disappeared, but the name is still preserved in Loch Mollo Road and Bridge. Well, he also advises that looking at an entry for Heska na Apes, which, of course, that shall be done. Cornish singer-songwriter Richard Trethewey sings about the old gardener. And, in fact, the song is about an attempt to rob this old gardener of the funds that he was saving to pay for a Methodist chapel.
I'll sing to you a story of a chapel and its name, and of William the gardener, a man of holy fame, a man of granite heart from a cottage on the moor. To work the land he came, but a Cornish hero he remains. While tending to the gardens, William he was called to tend the local people, preach the gospel of the Lord. A humble barn the more would do their bursting at the seams. They must build themselves a home, a chapel built of living stone. 3 learned squires from Oxford, not Methodist in heart, to rob old William of his funds they set out in the dark, disguised in face and clothing, gentle robbers of the night. They sought his money, not his life, but the gardener he would find. Upright in bed, old William sat, red cap upon his head. One more step towards me come, and then we'll all be dead. Candle, flint and steel, black powder piled high. The Lord is my defense, no fear lay in his eye. Repent, you miserable sinners, repent and you'll be saved, or you'll soon be in another world, a world beyond the grave. Your money on the table, and now with cheerful voice, on earth we all do dwell, so before him you'll rejoice. Like a moth into the flame, they came back on their knees to hear old William's sermon of how they all did flee. Black powder there was none, just a pile of black leek seed. So that's the tale of William and how the chapel got its name. Saw leek seed on the table, their money they did pay, enough to build a beacon for sailors to be saved. A man of holy fame, the old gardener was his name.
The Old Gardener, written and performed by Cornish singer Richard Trethewey, all about William Stephen, a gardener who led Methodist services in a barn prior to the building of what people then called the Leakseed Methodist Chapel, after the unusual method that William Stephen took to ward off would-be robbers. Well, still with J.J. Neen's place names, Hescana Apes, Abbeyland boundary, about 1376, Chronicle of the Kings of Man and the Isles, Irish, Uskian and Afir, the Abbot's Water. This name, he says, was apparently an alternative designation for Mallow Loch, or Loch Mallow, a large lake within the Abbeyland boundaries. In 1257, Magnus, son of Olav, granted the following lands to the Bishop of Man and the Isles: St. Patrick's Isle, Kilchrist, and half of the fishery in Myerscough. This charter is confirmed by Lord Thomas, Earl of Derby, Lord of Man and the Isles, in 1505. In 1703 we find that Mrs. Margaret Christian of the Nunnery held Loch Mallow, showing that even at that time it was regarded as abbey property. From all this it would appear that the fishing rights in Mallow Loch belonged to the abbot, and the fishing rights in Dove Loch, now Dolloch, within the bishop's domains, belonged to the bishop. Well, elsewhere there's a reference to fishing for perch, so coarse fish were here in the island. Chouds vi ginu shen henk sha couch stoma, on van ri na hai. Henk couch gestap as doet an ri. Ma ven eg quoius, as creit hou de yinu an shen. Dreger ish, shen nien wach mish as tam istrul a snai. Esh deni ri a rish a son, as an ode vaki der au I 4 eilen doortei. Bailt gol merem. O, salium lesh me kledden grie dregerish, as we gennacht en vie banere de bij astrijde were as a jere. Esh gau I kesmet soes as stjaagse gouch, as hai rumbi merische rie. As tre renke de gaas te leggen, van banish ern veilige lesh stomid moer, maar ren de denje begge se geel en jenu fashioness. Eg jern blina van mak egen ven rein, as noder awel jas voor a glaasjen jen eich vai fi boerek, henki merish en nienek as a gastjel, maar de bege inrigen de gorkiert, een rie as a ven rein. Once again, here are the 5 voices of the band Roon, led by Brona McVitie, and a well-known song in Irish, Cassa and Tugain, twisting this again, the rope which is made from straw, twisted tightly together.
Arina vart kaduka son sundu ye show me. Iskramo kalinja zayoni mugu hin bagin. Gorka sos chak me morshak iskraya umgliv. Skorn channa vanna mak me akasum tu ganin fair. Ma vientu lombi lomba storin mokri. Ma vientu lombi lomba skoward until. Ma vientu lombi lomga hola de kri. Shemolongo fanna klom ke doni humani. Tamojan salile blienes nile grinakte. Ni vai ana brahra pesa don skjale. As time it oile blien skan fala gamortin. Isker jalle fje melje gomoga honin je. Ma vientu lombi lomma storin mokri. Ma vientu lombi lomma skowerd til. Ma vientu lombi lomga hola de kri. Shemolongo fanna klom ke doni humani. Do kroken dorschen horen siel on sechri. Is du Jan in Oberhorker Allen Veen Re. Du Hurchen Grofanach is moedig jul Rewere. Is na ne aluban la farna nien hushin hin. Ma vien tu lambli lamba storin mochri. Ma vien tu lambli lamaus koer etil. Ma vien tu lambli lam gahorla del kri. Shemolongo von nachlom je doni humani.
The quintet rune with the song Casa and Tugain. A person would take the core, the twister, and ends of straw attached to it. Then the person would move slowly backwards, turning the core. That would twist the rope, whilst there'd be someone sat at the stack of straw to feed in the straw to keep it consistent. Slow and boring work, particularly for the person with the core. Later out tref yn rhi yngol mach, as trainer out pecher bi cion finish, ren y drochfen, Gael y fen rein liorish y chion, as ren yn unig Gael I liorish na boinen, as ren y tarni mach as y liabi, as chiawa di mach as yn unig, as stiach on struan fy rai ffoi. Now must we to the eastward hurry, by the old-time fort of Ballacurry, so well preserved, through ages worry, relic of Mannin's warlike pomp, by bog secured from time's great romp, there's merit even in a swamp. Well, he makes it sound ancient, but in fact it was built in the 1650s or 60s, so not quite 400 years old, and it was never finished, never used in anger, but it's still an impressive sight there at Ballacurry. Shene Shachir Shaw. Coming up in the next 2 hours from 7 to 9, Chris Pearson presents the best in chill-out music for your Sunday evening. And then at 9, Judith Lay will be here to take you through into Monday morning with the programme Sundown. Claare Gael closes with Welsh duo Olion Bill, Lucy Rivers on fiddle and Dan Lawrence on guitar, joined here on percussion by Mark O'Connor. Ach, the jaru mor van mi grey, shene as my sort and treyer jet. And so, until the next time then, this is Robert Katin Carswell, Robert a Carslach.
Old Bobby Bob.
Wishing you a very good night. Eve I'm a creort, as duts my yeary and share.